The ox has never really gone astray, so why search for it? Having turned his back on his true nature, the man cannot see it. Because of his defilements, he has lost sight of the ox. Suddenly, he finds himself confronted by a maze of crisscrossing roads. Greed for worldly gain and dread of loss spring up like searing flames. Ideas of right and wrong dart out like daggers. Desolate through forests and fearful in jungles, he is seeking an ox which he does not find. Up and down dark, nameless, wide-flowing rivers, in deep mountain thickets, he treads many bypaths. Bone-tired, heart-weary, he carries on his search for this something which he yet cannot find. At evening he hears cicadas chirping in the trees. Finding the tracks. Through the sutras and teachings he discerns the tracks of the ox. He has been informed that just as different shaped golden vessels are all basically of the same gold, so each and everything is a manifestation of the self. He is unable to distinguish good from evil, truth and falsity. He has not actually entered the gate, but he sees in a tentative way the tracks of the ox. Innumerable footprints has he seen in the forest and along the water's edge. Over yonder does he see the trampled grass? Even the deepest gorges of the topmost mountains can't hide this ox's nose, which reaches right to heaven. 3. The first glimpse of the ox. If he will but listen intently to everyday sounds, he will come to realization, and at that instant see the very source. These six senses are no different from this true source. In every activity, the source is manifestly present. It is analogous to the salt in the water or the binder in paint. When the inner vision is properly focused, one comes to realize that that which is seen is identical with the true source. A nightingale warbles on a twig. The sun shines on undulating willows. There stands the ox. Where could it hide? That splendid head, those stately horns, what artist could portray them? 4. Catching the ox. Today he encountered the ox, which had long been cavorting in the wild fields, and he actually grasped it. For so long a time has it reveled in these surroundings that breaking it of its old habits is not easy. It continues to yearn for sweet-scented grasses. It is still stubborn and unbridled. If he would tame it completely, the man must use his whip. He must tightly grasp the rope and not let it go, for the ox still has unhealthy tendencies. Now it charges up to the highlands. Now it loiters in a misty ravine. 5. Taming the ox. With the rising of one thought, another and another are born. Enlightenment brings the realization that such thoughts are not unreal, since even they arise from our true nature. It is only because delusion still remains that they are imagined to be unreal. This state of delusion does not originate in the objective world, but in our own minds. He must hold the nose rope tight and not allow the ox to roam, lest off to muddy haunts it should stray. Properly tended, it becomes clean and gentle. Untethered, it willingly follows its master. 6. Riding the ox home. The struggle is over. Gain and loss no longer affect him. He hums the rustic tune of the woodsman and plays the simple songs of the village children. Astride the ox's back, he gazes serenely at the clouds above. His head does not turn in the direction of temptations. Try though one may to upset him, he remains undisturbed. Riding free as air, he buoyantly comes home through evening mists in a wide straw hat and cape. Wherever he may go, he creates a fresh breeze. while in his heart profound tranquility prevails. This ox requires not even a single blade of grass. 7. The ox forgotten, self alone. In the Dharma, there is no two-ness. The ox is his primal nature. This he has now recognized. A trap is no longer needed when a rabbit has been caught. A net becomes useless when a fish has been snared. Like gold, which has been separated from dross, like the moon which has broken through the clouds, one ray of luminous light shines eternally. Only on the ox was he able to come home. But lo, the ox is now vanished, and alone and serene sits the man. The red sun rides high in the sky as he dreams on placidly. Yonder beneath the thatched roof, his idle whip and idle rope are lying. 8. Both ox and self forgotten. All delusive feelings have perished, and ideas of holiness too have vanished. He lingers not in the state of I am a Buddha, and he passes quickly on through the stage of, and now I have purged myself of the proud feeling I am not Buddha. Even the 1,000 eyes of the 500 Buddhas and Dharma masters can discern in him no specific quality. If hundreds of birds were now to strew flowers about his room, he could not but feel ashamed of himself. Whip, rope, ox, and man alike belong to emptiness, so vast and infinite the azure sky, that no concept of any sort can reach it. Over a blazing fire, a snowflake cannot survive. When this state of mind is realized, comes at last comprehension of the spirit of the ancient patriarchs. 9. Returning to the source. From the very beginning, there has not been so much as a speck of dust to mar the intrinsic purity. He observes the waxing and waning of life in the world while abiding unassertively in a state of unshakable serenity. This waxing and waning is no phantom or illusion, but a manifestation of the source. Why then is there need to strive for anything? The waters are blue, the mountains are green. Alone with himself, he observes things endlessly changing. He has returned to the origin, come back to the source, but his steps have been taken in vain. It is as though he were now blind and deaf. Seated in his hut, he hankers not for things outside. Streams meander on of themselves. Red flowers naturally bloom red. 10. Entering the marketplace with arms hanging loose. The gate of his cottage is closed, and even the wisest cannot find him. His mental panorama has finally disappeared. He goes his own way, making no attempt to follow the steps of earlier sages. Carrying a gourd, he strolls into the market. Leaning on his staff, he returns home. He leads innkeepers and fishmongers in the way of the Buddha. Bare-chested, barefooted, he comes into the marketplace. Muddied and dust-covered, how broadly he grins. Without recourse to mystic powers, withered trees he swiftly brings to bloom. The 10 ox-herding pictures and commentaries presented here depict the stages of practice leading to the enlightenment, which is the aim of Zen Buddhism. They dramatize the fact that enlightenment reveals the true self, showing it to be the ordinary self doing ordinary things in a most extraordinary way. The story of the ox and the ox herd are separated at first, but united in the realization of the inner unity of all existence, is an old Taoist story. updated and modified by a 12th century Chinese Buddhist master to explain the path to enlightenment. The ox symbolizes the ultimate undivided reality, the Buddha nature, which is the ground of all existence. The ox herd symbolizes the self, who initially identifies with the individuated ego separate from the ox, but who, with progressive enlightenment, comes to realize the fundamental identity with the ultimate reality which transcends all distinctions. When this happens, the ox herd realizes the ultimacy of all existence, that there is nothing that is not the Buddha nature. He now understands the preciousness and profundity of the most ordinary things of life, illuminating ordinary living with his enlightenment. The 12th century monk Guoan Shiyuan revised and expanded upon the traditional Taoist story of the ox and the ox herd by creating a series of 10 images and accompanying verses to simultaneously depict and narrate this well-known tale. His version subsequently became one of the most popular, enduring versions of the parable. Nevertheless, despite the dominance of Guoan's paintings, other Zen Buddhists and artists have repeatedly repainted and retranslated his immortal verses throughout the following centuries. And while the illustrations of the tale may vary, the verses tend to either be direct or indirect translations of Guoan's original verses, and their message remains unchanged.